following program is for training purposes in TV news education. Some copyrighted material is used and is credited on screen. However, no more was taken than was necessary to tell the story of the event. YBA claims fair use of materials.
Chris, how do you adjust your reporting style when you go about reporting on more sensitive issues?
There's a guy by the name of Boyd Hupert who works in Minneapolis at KARE 11, and he always says, be a human being first and a reporter second, and you just have to do that. You have to go into a situation that there's no point going up to someone who's just lost their house or their child with a big old microphone and sticking it in their face and seeing if they want to talk. There's really not a lot of situations that I think that's a good thing to do. And so you approach those sensitive situations and you talk to people the way that you would want to be talked to if you were in that situation. If they've just lost a child, you go up to them and just kind of, you just try to get to know them and talk to them and kind of hopefully they warm up to you. And if they want to talk to you, they do. And if they don't, you just move on. It's, some news directors would probably be mad if, you don't always get that person or that, victim's family member. But if they don't want to talk and they say they don't want to talk, you just, there's nothing, you can push them as hard as you can. But, at the end of the day, it's not worth it if they are beyond the point of, they're so upset about something that you just have to be a human. You have to understand that some people just aren't in a situation where they want to talk about things. And then there are other situations where you would think, someone wouldn't want to talk to you because they've had something so traumatic, like a family member be killed or, maybe multiple family members or something like that. And then they do talk to you. And I've had some people call me or contact me maybe a year later or months later and say, that actually really helped, being able to just talk about that person or the situation at the time and just kind of, get some of my feelings out there, which, we get blasted a lot by people saying, you should leave these poor people alone, which, a lot of the times is probably true. But when you do get people like that say, hey, it helped to share my story or to share so-and-so's story, it kind of, it makes it, I guess, worth doing those kinds of stories, even though they can be tough.
Do you prefer to be behind the anchor desk or out in the field reporting?
No, I don't. I don't like sitting here in the office. And we have some great anchors here, and everyone is just kind of part of the ship. And they have their really important roles, and I have mine. I would say there are two reasons I don't like anchoring that much. One is that it ends up being more of a desk job. You don't get to, when the big story is happening or the floods are going on or the fires or the tornadoes, you're not out there chasing them. Sure, I mean, you're still delivering the news, but you're not out there in the situation as it's unfolding. And secondly, you really don't get to be as creative in your writing because you're just kind of reading through a show that a producer more than likely has written, whereas for me, I have my own little section of a newscast that I get to craft and kind of write the way that I want to.
How do you mentally and physically arrange for a story, going out in a story with crazy weather or crazy situations?
It's just a lot of adrenaline. I really like crazy weather stories. You learn to have, I don't think I have anything over here, but you just learn to have, wait, hold on. You just learn to have, I have extra jeans and I have boots under my desk. Because, if they say I have to go to a farm or something that's flooded, or whatever, me showing up in a suit and tie is not very handy. So, I mean, you just go out and weather stories, I actually really like severe weather stories because you get to be very creative. You get to kind of go out and just find things usually and kind of craft the story however you want in the way that, you're able to just find elements and pieces and put them together.
Chris, you mentioned that writing is kind of a big reason why you've had success and it's something you really like to do. When did you first hone in your writing and say, this is something I'm good at, this is something I want to become better at?
I think it was in my first job in Minnesota after the first year or so, when you kind of, after getting through the nitty gritty stuff of learning actually what you're doing and how to do it. And then I started watching some of the really talented local guys that were up in Minneapolis and saying, all right, I could emulate this, and I like the way they're doing this, and kind of just watching a lot of other really good take that style and kind of adapt it to be your own.
Now, I understand that you have run the Boston Marathon, and are you running it again this year?
Yeah, I'm running it a week from tomorrow, I guess.
Why do you run the Boston Marathon?
I run the Boston Marathon I run it for a charity that helps people with cancer, Dana-Farber, but I also run it because it's fun. It's so much fun with all the people out there and the crowds. It sounds crazy saying that running 26.2 miles is fun, but it really is. And I think that's why I keep doing it.
How do you prepare for it?
I'm just always running. I mean, I try to just always be out. I run probably every other day, and as it gets closer, you just have to start running more. So last week I had to run 20 miles as opposed to just going out and running 4 or 5 miles.
Are you ready for the marathon? You mentioned it's a week away. Is your training? How's the training going?
I'm ready. I'm ready to be done training, actually, because it's a lot of time when you have to take three hours on your day off and just go run.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming on, Chris. TJ Horgan, John Hand.
Good luck in the marathon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Take care.
It was great to talk to Chris. He's done so well in his career, and he keeps going up. He's on the up and up and up.
Yeah.
Well, now going back to sports, the Celtics right now are in the playoffs. They've clinched a playoff berth. Their record right now is 39-37. They are currently, if the playoffs were to start tomorrow, a 7th seed. They would play the New York Knicks, who right now are on fire.
Yeah.
Carmelo Anthony is absolutely tearing it up. He's had 40 points in multiple games this week. So, guys, do you think it's going to take a lot for the Celtics to get into that 6th seed?
Yeah.
What's your view on their playoffs right now?
I don't think the Celtics will be able to make it past the first round. I mean, Garnett's injured, Pierce is injured, Rondo's out, Sullinger's out, so that leaves Terry and Lee and guys like that to step up. But honestly, the Knicks are the hottest team in basketball,
12 in a row, right?
Yeah, 12 in a row. Like Tom, they beat the Thunder, I believe, in Oklahoma City today, 125-120. Amari Stoudemire's injured. That's a good thing for them because at the rate J.R. Smith is going and Carmelo Anthony, injuries, the Knicks are the one team where injuries help them. So I just don't see how the Celtics can get the 6th seed. They could even fall to the 8th seed. There's no way they can beat the Knicks or the Heat in the first round with all the injuries they're having.
I would have to agree with you because, listen, the Celtics are too injury prone. I mean, no Pierce, no KG. Basically, the core of their team has been lost to injury, and that doesn't help when their core of their team is 100 years old. So
Combined, at least.
Combined, and it just doesn't work like that. I mean, you can't, and they're 3-7 in their last 10. You cannot limp into the playoffs. That is not a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if the Celtics were to move any seed, they would move down to an 8th seed where they'd be facing the Heat. And honestly, the Heat and the Knicks, both extremely formidable teams to be facing right now. They don't want to have to come up against them. There's not much the Celtics can do. They can hope for a rally, but player for player, the Knicks are just better than the Celtics. You look at the Celtics, their highest scorer points per game, Paul Pierce, 18.8 points a game. Carmelo Anthony, 28.3 points per game. And then if you look at rebounding, you have Kevin Garnett, who's averaging 7.8 rebounds per game. They have Tyson Chandler, 10.7 rebounds per game. Just player for player, category for category, the Knicks are a better team than the Celtics.
And as TK kind of touched on, Kevin Garnett isn't playing right now.
Yeah.
So he can't rebound anything if he's not on the court.
Yeah, that's true.
He should be back tonight. He's hoping to be back tonight. He said he's a little nervous to play tonight. And he has bone spurs. And if you go back, take a trip down memory lane, Ray Allen had bone spurs and had an absolutely horrific playoff
Yeah.
with those bone spurs. So that's something that the Celtics fans should be scared about. And Paul Pierce also expected to play tonight with a sore ankle. And those are two guys you expect to carry your team. And as TK mentioned, they are a combined like 100 years old.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is an old team trying to go into a playoff with young teams who are absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
And
there's no way they can do it.
I mean, maybe we thought this last year, and they got pretty far. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals, took the Miami Heat to 7 games.
Well, this year is different. Rondo was playing MVP caliber basketball during the playoffs. This year, he might not even be on the bench. You don't have Sullinger. Brandon Bass also had a few good games in the playoffs. He's nowhere near the same player he was last year. I don't see any way, even if Pierce and Garnett are able to come back 100%, which most likely they won't by the time the playoffs start, I just don't see how the Celtics can get past the Knicks.
Just listen to the players we're talking about. The Celtics, they might not have Sullinger. They might not have Pierce. They might not have Garnett. These players, even if they were on the court, they can't even compete with guys like Tyson Chandler, Carmelo Anthony, J.R. Smith. They cannot compete with that. The Celtics don't have star players on the court right now.
You're right. And Rondo has been... I don't know how I feel about this whole Rondo thing, but him not being there, it's definitely, you could kind of count on him to get you some points, some assists, but with him out, that definitely hurts this team. You're right, guys. It's going to be tough to get out of the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, they were happy. They were almost not even in the playoffs. So, I mean, at least they got in. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go take the optimistic road. Let's see them get out of the first round. I kind of want to see that. You never know.
So let's say they get out of the first round. You're playing Miami next.
They won't get out of the second round, but maybe they get out of the first round.
That's what's going to happen if they get out of the second round.